What's going on, guys? T Blake here, and if you're clicking into this video, chances are you're trying to learn some things before you purchase your first Rolex. Now, while this video is specifically aimed towards Rolexes, you can use this kind of advice for other watches. If you want to go back to some of my videos, I've done some on Panerai, I've also done one on Audemars, so pretty much the same things stay in place for these. Today we're going to be taking a look at three of the watches I have. I have a Submariner, a GMT2, and a Sky Dweller Rolex, and I'm going to talk to you guys about why I made those decisions and some things that you should think about before you make your own purchasing decision. Now, for some of you guys watching this, you might be saying, well, you know, a Rolex is pretty far out of my budget right now. I'm looking for something more entry level. The advice that I'm giving you is the same advice I'll give my friends, which is if you want something that's unique, cool, quirky, really look into vintage watches on eBay. One of my close friends out in Oregon recently purchased a vintage Omega watch. It looks fantastic, it runs well, and he paid, I think, $1,100 for it. So you can find really one-of-a-kind vintage watches that really are a statement piece, as opposed to, you know, a lot of people have the Batman GMT, a lot of people have a Hulk Submariner, a lot of people have the black Submariner, the classic one. You can really stand out that way and you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. But if you are looking to purchase a Rolex or any Rolex, there's some things that you should keep in mind. First of all, you want to know whether or not it's going to come with box and papers. It's not entirely problematic if your watch doesn't have original box and papers, but like with anything, if you want to think back to even original NES games, right? Games that have their original box and instruction manual always go for more than the ones that don't. Doesn't mean that the ones that don't aren't real, but obviously people like to have everything together. So if you're thinking of making a purchase and box and papers are important to you, those two qualities are going to keep the value of your watch up and steady compared to a watch that's not going to have either of those two things. Another important thing to keep in mind while you're making your first purchase decision is that yes, while Rolexes are expensive, they do retain their value. As a matter of fact, the GMT that I have and the Hulk that I have actually gone up about $2,000 in value, and that's with them being worn. So I bought all of my watches brand new. You can see they still have the stickers on them. I just keep them on until they fall off. Maybe that's stupid, but I don't really care. But the point is that sometimes Rolex will either retire a watch, discontinue it, or the demand will be so great that there's a waiting list, and that sends resale prices up. Now, the Sky Dweller is another example of that. I believe MSRP is around $14,500. You'd be hard pressed to find one under $17,000 or $16,000 now, just because there's so much of a demand. So what does that mean? Well, it means that watches aren't a bad place to put your money in. Now, not all watches, obviously. Certain Audemars, Hublot, other high-priced watches, very niche watches, we've seen that paying full price is not the best idea. But with classic Rolexes, you're pretty much safe with what you originally put in, and in some cases you have the value go way up. You can even look at crazy vintage examples like certain Daytonas where MSRP back then, a couple $1,000, now they're going for, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So keeping everything together, and of course, there's nothing more classic than a Rolex. A lot of people like to hand it down, pass it on generation to generation, and I think that's one of the qualities that keeps it a timeless brand and keeps the prices up. Now, what are some don'ts when you're purchasing your first Rolex? Well, first of all, a lot of you have probably seen really iced out watches. Terrible idea. For Rolex to authenticate a watch, if your Rolex doesn't have Rolex diamonds, which means that Rolex didn't put them into the watch at the factory, and there are some watches that incorporate diamonds on the bezel or the face, that's considered fake, replica. They can't authenticate it as being perfectly Rolex. So what you'll see is a lot of people are icing it out, and one, they're never gonna get the value back out that they put in, custom jewelry setting, everything that's more expensive. And two, you're really devaluing the watch. So yeah, it looks cool. Yeah, you have bling, whatever it is, but not the most, not even close to the best financial decision you can make. If you do want an iced out watch, don't get it custom. Go find someone that made the mistake on eBay or through another jeweler and buy it that way, because at least you're not sinking in as much value for it. Other thing to keep in mind is if the price is too good to be true, it probably is. Obviously, Rolex is highly fake. There's tons of jewelers that do great work that are authorized Rolex accounts. I've also made some purchases on eBay. You might be saying eBay, little sketchy, but one of the nice things too is a lot of stores that have real stores that you can call them. For instance, I purchased my Panerai from a store down in Miami through eBay. You can look them up, you can talk to them, you can say, hey, I'm looking at this auction, and of course it's going to be tax-free, but again, that loophole is closing according to the Supreme Court, so if you are trying to do that, I would recommend doing it very soon. So to recap, if you're making your first Rolex purchasing decision, remember that these are timeless pieces. They hold their value. Box and paper is going to keep that up. You're not going to want to do any custom jewelry setting yourself. You're going to lose so much value. If you want that aesthetic, buy it from someone else that already did it. And of course, if the price seems too good to be true, do your homework, do your research, talk to the people, and make sure wherever you're buying it from has an authenticity guarantee on it, so that if you do get stuck, you can obviously return it and fight that fight. If you guys found this video helpful, leave a thumbs up on it. If you want to see some other watch content on my channel, like I said, I've done the Panerai, I've done a couple Rolexes before, and I've also done the Audemars, so you can check that out if you want a refresher or are interested in any of those models. T Blake signing out. Peace, guys.